No, I mean, I don't think anyone's experienced anything like this throughout their careers worldwide. But certainly every winter we would have shortages and we would have a lack of beds, and the NHS would certainly be stretched to its limits and gradually getting worse as I left in 2010. But it did gradually get worse.
You left, 10 years ago, and now there's a call, obviously, and we're seeing former NHS staff returning to the front line. Will you consider that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I get asked, I will. I think they're starting to ask people who have had their registration taken away or run out in the last 3 years. But certainly, if they need it, I'm available. And I have made that clear to a number of my former colleagues.
But are you not nervous of the fact that you could be risking your life due to the lack of protective equipment?
I think, in the NHS, most people know that they're risking their lives anyway. You're at risk all the time. But certainly there is a distinct lack of personal protective equipment. I think in the hospitals in the last week or so, it has got better. I'm hearing it has got better. But certainly in primary care, it still hasn't. And we're hearing from people all the time that don't have the equipment available. And more importantly, they don't know which equipment they should be wearing and where they they should procure the equipment. I've had a number of my colleagues actually offer to pay for themselves and their colleagues if they know where to get the correct equipment from. So I think that's probably a wider problem.
And what do you make of the fact that staff are actually hiding their own protective equipment?
I mean, I have heard that. I have to say that's not my personal experience. We've started a crowdfunding page to provide protective equipment to the frontline doctors. And everyone that we contact is actually very, very mindful, like we say with the grocery shopping with the general public, of what they ask for. And they're actually telling us that, to give them the minimum so that other people can benefit as well. So I don't think that's a wide NHS problem. I think that's maybe a few cases.
We understand the government planned for this sort of scenario a few years ago, but seemingly hasn't really acted on what it learnt from those so-called rehearsals.
I think that there's absolutely no question that we've had a delayed response to this, especially with personal protective equipment. It should have come a while ago and is starting to filter now. I think it's not a procurement issue, and it's certainly not a money issue, in my opinion, from what I hear. I think it's more of a distribution issue. Historically, NHS trusts and general practices have procured as single businesses, and now it's a centralised system. I think if you're not within the preferred procurement gateway, then when they run out or the practices don't know where to get these equipment from. So it's certainly what I would call a delayed response. Delayed response,
but too late. We're now, of course, seeing this vast increase in the capacity of beds now being provided by the government. Is that on time?
I mean, I don't know. I can't honestly tell you. What I would say is a delayed response is better than no response. I think what you have to bear in mind with doctors is not only are they worried about their safety, which absolutely they should be if they don't have the right personal protective equipment, but if a doctor transmits COVID-19, then they're out of action for 14 days. And that puts a distinct pressure on the NHS to fulfill their position and their job. And also, there could be people walking around COVID-19 positive. As you know, a lot of people are asymptomatic and therefore infecting others, district nurses, general practitioners, hospices. And I think that's something that my colleagues are even more worried about than perhaps their own health.
But we're seeing these tests now. Surely they'll have an immediate impact?
Hopefully, if they can get them to the front. As I said, with the hospitals, I think that they're getting on top of things very, very quickly. I'd like to see more done for the wider healthcare, as I say, primary care, hospices, and people, district nurses, people that are helping day by day. But I think the hospitals are getting on top of it, and London, as you know, is a hub, and I think the London hospitals are getting on top of it quicker than everyone else.
You have another concern, of course. You also work for a homeless charity. Rough sleepers seemingly could be the forgotten victims here, despite government pledges to protect them.
Yeah, absolutely. We run a homeless charity called the Carepack, where we distribute backpacks of essential items for the homeless every year. So I'm quite involved with the homeless. And I actually know people that are working with a number of hotel chains to try and house homeless people during this crisis. But it is absolutely a concern that, you know, they could be forgotten within all this. But I do know that steps are being taken to address that, and we're certainly helping if we can.